Hello and welcome to today's lesson. I'm your hard-working but indefatigable teacher, Mr. Burton. You will need to watch this video and take notes as you go. You may need to watch certain parts of the video a few times to ensure complete understanding. This is your homework and I will check your notes tomorrow before we get started. I hope you learned something.
Okay, hello and welcome to today's lesson. Today we are looking at the costs of a firm. The different types of costs, and they all start with the factors of production.
Factors of production is an economic term describing the general inputs used to produce goods and services to make a profit. Under the classical view of economics, the factors of production consist of land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. Land refers to the land itself as well as the raw materials that come from the land. This includes timber, coal, precious minerals such as gold and water. It can also mean the physical area on which a factory sits. Labor refers to the workers who answer the phones, lift the pallets, drive the trucks, push the paperwork, and do all things physical and intellectual to keep a business running. Capital refers to the buildings, machines, and tools used in the process of production. Capital is anything from a fleet of delivery trucks, to a factory building, to a printing press, or a computer. Intellectual capital is defined as the technological expertise a business acquires over time, its trade secrets, and unique business processes. There is also social capital, the ability to operate because society has agreed to a system of order, conduct, and law. These elements facilitate an economic environment that allows the business to operate. Finally, entrepreneurship is the factor of production that ties the other three together. The entrepreneur provides innovation and creativity in the use of the other factors, which helps create a profitable business. For simplicity and analytic purposes, economists and analysts usually focus attention on two main factors, capital and labor. The relationship of both these factors and a company's output is referred to as the production function.
Okay, so factors of production describe the inputs that are used in the production of goods and services, and of course firms are putting these things in place to make an economic profit. Production in the short run. Inputs, again the factors of production, are used by all firms to make outputs, and outputs are the goods and services that firms produce in order to make a profit. The short run is a time period where at least one of the factors of production are fixed. So that's either land, labour, capital, or enterprise. At least one of those is fixed. This means, for example, that if a firm is wanting to increase its output to produce more goods and services, it could purchase additional capital goods, it could buy in machinery, or it could employ additional labour units reasonably quickly. However, purchasing something like land or building a new factory is going to take considerably longer. So if even one of these factors of production, for example land, is fixed, then the firm is operating in the short run. And this is different to the long run, where each and every input can be changed. It's a time period where each and every input can be changed. So land can be purchased, new factories can be built. So in the long run, a firm can produce as much output as it wants by introducing more and more resources into its production process. So key point, all inputs are variable in the long run. Short and long run production.
What is the difference between short run production and long run production? Well, by definition, the short run is the time period in which at least one resource is fixed. Well, how long is that? The answer, of course, is it depends. Let's say you've decided to open a restaurant. You've done your homework, so you know that most new restaurants fail within the first year. Because you're cautious, you decide to sign a lease for just 6 months so that you can see how things go. In this case, the short run, the period in which at least one resource is fixed, is 6 months. If you had been more optimistic or less risk-averse, maybe you would have committed to a longer lease, say 2 years, In this case, the short run would be 2 years. Once the lease is up, you could decide to keep the space or expand or downsize so that the capital, the building, would now be changeable. Once all resources are changeable, you're no longer dealing with the short run, you're dealing with the long run. Generally, resources such as labor and supplies are more likely to be changeable, whereas large durable capital items such as your storefront or other building tend to be fixed for extended periods of time. Keep this in mind as we move forward to consider production decisions.
Okay, a very nice video there showing the difference between the short and long run production in economics. Total, average and marginal product. Total product, the number of units of output that are produced in a specified period of time. We're going to use a bakery as an example, and their total product is 2,000 cakes per day. So their units of output, cakes, their total product 2,000 cakes per day. Average product, we take the number of units produced in a specified time period per unit of a variable factor, and for example labor, so a baker, while all other factors of production are held constant. If, for example, the firm, their total product is 2,000 cakes per day and they have 4 bakers, then the average product per unit of labor, i.e. per baker, is 500 cakes per day. Marginal product, a key point here, marginal product is a change in total output that occurs when an additional unit of a variable input is added to the production process. So for example, if 4 bakers make this bakery 2,000 cakes a day, if the bakery employs 1 more baker and the bakery increases its total product, that means it's now being able to bake 2,400 cakes per day, then the marginal product of that added baker, added variable input, the additional baker, is 400 cakes per day. Right, capital is fixed in the short term. It takes a bit more time to get additional ovens, workbenches, sinks in a kitchen, equipment, etc. And that's going to require a larger bakery. Perhaps new land would need to be purchased by the firm and a larger bakery built and kitted out. Each baker is a variable input unit in the production of making cakes. The amount of labour our firm employs can be changed in the short run. So, in our bakery, labour is variable and capital is fixed. And the question we want to ask ourselves is, what happens to total product, average product and marginal product as more and more units of labour are employed whilst keeping the capital fixed? So we're talking in the short term here. How does the output of cakes change as more and more bakers are added to the mix? Right, remembering capital is fixed, so in the short run we can't change the capital. All we can do is add more and more units of labour. So if we start off with 0 bakers, we don't get anything baked. This bakery cannot make anything with 0 units of labour. The first baker comes in, total product is 2,000 cakes. That means average product and marginal product is 2,000 as well. Our second baker is employed. Total product jumps to 5,000. Average product, total product divided by each unit of variable input, the baker. 5,000 cakes divided by 2 bakers. Average product is 2,500. On average, each of those bakers is baking 2,500 cakes each day. Marginal product is a change from employing that additional unit of labour. So 1 extra baker meant that the bakery's total product jumped by 3,000 cakes. 3 bakers, we add a third baker in. Total product jumps by another 4,000 to 9,000. 9,000 divided by 3 will give us our average product and marginal product, 4,000 cakes, because that was a change from what 2 bakers could bake to what that additional baker added, 4,000 cakes. And we can keep on doing this, seeing the change in total product as we continue to add an additional baker into our bakery, keeping capital fixed. What we can see there in marginal product is that marginal product continues to increase up until our fourth baker. Our fourth baker managed to add 5,000 cakes to the mix, but our fifth baker could only add 4,000. And after that we see a steady diminishing marginal product. After that point, each baker is adding successively less and less to the total product of the bakery. And by the time we get to our 10th unit of labour, that 10th baker being added, returns start to go negative. Which brings us to our law of diminishing marginal returns.
In formal economic terms, the law of diminishing marginal returns states that as the number of new employees increases, the marginal product of an additional employee will at some point be less than the marginal product of the previous employee. Let's use the law of diminishing marginal returns to analyze Leo's custom guitar shop. Leo is a sole employee and can build one custom-made guitar per month. But Leo's guitars are highly prized, and he could sell more than 12 per year. Leo hires an employee and trains her to make his guitars. Now Leo can sell 2 guitars per month and thus double his sales. Leo can continue adding employees and increase his sales, but at some point he will run out of space in his guitar shop. There is only room for Leo and 3 other employees in the shop. Adding a 5th employee will make the shop overcrowded. Leo and his employees will no longer be able to each make 1 guitar per month in the crowded shop, and thus the return on adding a new employee has diminished.
So a key term in this unit, the law of diminishing returns. In all production processes in the short run, adding more of one factor of production, holding others constant, will at some point, sooner or later, produce lower additional per unit returns. And if we take that information and turn it into a curve, we can plot the total product, average product and marginal product curves for the bakery. So units of output there, and the units of variable input labour going across the bottom. We can see that as we keep adding successive units of variable input, our units of output sooner or later start to produce less and less. So total product at the top, and we can see that for the most part total product keeps increasing, although beer at a diminishing rate as each additional baker is added to the mix. That is until marginal product turns negative, which we can see there down the bottom. And another key point here is that as soon as marginal product goes through the middle of the average product curve, it starts to drag the average product curve down. Average product becomes less and less. So total product turns negative when, total product begins to decline when marginal product becomes negative. And that point of inflection, we know that diminishing returns are starting to set in. So marginal product begins to decrease. The point of inflection with total product equals the diminishing returns in the marginal product. And average product begins to decline when it intersects with the MP curve. This means that the MP curve is always intersects with the AP curve when AP is at its maximum.